everybody, welcome to Two Non-Doctors. I'm Liz Mealy.
I'm Maria Shahada. We are stand-up comedians.
Stand-up comedians that are currently jobless because of the coronavirus.
We're finally going to be the doctors our mothers wanted us to be.
Is there anything that we don't know?
A lot, actually. We have a lot of questions. We have a lot of answers.
All of them wrong.
But we do have access to
Google.
And a vet.
Oh yeah, my mom's a vet. She knows some stuff. We have to do this
So
again.
every once in a while, we're going to invite her on. No, we don't. We're going to actually use this. Welcome to Two Non-Doctors.
Yay! Welcome to Two Non-Doctors. I'm Liz Mealy.
I'm Maria Shahada.
And we are still quarantined. It's actually only getting worse in New York. I think it's starting to ramp up in London, right?
I think so. I just looked at this. I read this New York Times photo essay of what happened in Italy, and I bawled my eyes out like, oh my God, heartbreaking.
I didn't mean to laugh when you said that, but you said you read a photo essay, and I was like, I don't. How do you read a photo essay?
I know. I was like, cruel bitch, but no.
I wasn't laughing at Italy falling apart and people dying. I was laughing at the fact that you were like, I read a magazine clip that has mostly pictures.
I read this TikTok video, and it was fucking heartbreaking. And like, I guess like, because I'm just so used to seeing morons on TV, like Boris Johnson or Trump just being idiots, and just like I'm used to the anger emotion or the laughing emotion because it's like, what else can you do? But then when you're faced with like the devastation of it all, it's like, I
also think in a lot of ways we are shielded from a lot of it because right now everybody's like, stay at home. So unless you're at a hospital, unless you are a nurse or a doctor or somebody else that works in a hospital, like you're not seeing the front lines. It's the same idea that like when you go to war, people are like, I don't know, everything seems fine here. And then there's soldiers that are like, things aren't fine. So,
and these doctors, yeah. And like everyone keeps saying, I mean, like the doctors, the care workers are at war, and they just fucking are. They're getting sick and it's scary. I mean, your sister's a nurse, isn't she?
Yeah, she is. I mean, she's an emergency room nurse in Virginia. And what really sucks, besides the fact that being a nurse every day is exhausting, like she has 3 kids, all daycare, all school is closed, so she has no support. And then like there's a couple people in the neighborhood that are like, hey, we can do play dates or we can watch each other's kids, and she's like, I can't. Like I'm a nurse, my husband's a firefighter and EMT, like we're compromised and we can't have our kids, like our kids could be sick and we don't know it, and we can't have your kids. Like we just can't. And so it's like this thing where not only are they exhausted and dealing with this head on, but they don't even have support because there's no options for them.
Right.
Like I feel for her. I feel for anybody that's in this position. And you know, we all joke like, oh, I'm so bored, I can't watch the same Netflix shows. And there's literally people working the hardest they've ever worked and are devastated and exhausted and watching death. And I do have people talk about like, you know, there's going to be so many movies and like TV shows. Like we already have our nurse shows and our doctor shows or whatever. But like, I'm so tired of these like tell-all books about working with Trump that, as sad as it might be, I'm looking forward to people that have really done something to help other people actually having books and movie deals and like having something as a I don't know, not a reward, because I don't think that's a reward, but just something that shows how powerful and helpful they've been, as opposed to these people that worked for Trump for 10 minutes and they're like, he's an idiot. And you're like, we all knew he's an idiot. You didn't need to write a tell-all book about him being an idiot.
That's why I think we also need comedy. I'm totally justifying our podcast. I'm like, well, people need to laugh too, right? So let's do that.
We are, you know, literally the opposite of helpful, as 2 people that can't help anybody. I don't know, man. I had a very busy day yesterday. Like I had, you know, we did our podcast. I did my first like virtual show. I did a corporate gig via Zoom.
Already?
Yeah. I almost
How
had
did that
one.
come about?
I almost had one 2 days into quarantine for a big tech conference. It was supposed to be like 400 people or something, or even more. It was all going to be done via Zoom. Everybody's mic was going to be muted, and then I had 3 different 15-minute sets that I was going to have to do. And they ended up going with another comic. And I was like, thank God, because it was like 2 days into quarantine. And I was like, not ready to destroy my feelings for comedy and stand up by doing a corporate tech gig via Zoom. Like everything about that statement is like, ugh, ugh,
Oh my God, those are the worst in person.
yeah. Oh, of course. I was like, at least the bombing, like I could immediately like eat chocolate when my set was done and cry in the comfort of my home. And it was clearly good money, but I was a little bit of like a mixed feeling when I didn't get it, where I was like, oh, I could have really used the money since I have no money coming in. And then there's a part of me that's like, thank God I didn't want to put on pants. I didn't want
You
to.
still wouldn't have to.
That is true, but
How'd the one yesterday go?
it was good. It was small. It was for I can plug them. It was readingplus.com. It's like it's help with learning and reading, and I probably didn't do enough research, but he was a fan of mine and he was doing like a virtual happy hour with his employees and the people he works with, and it was actually really nice. I mean, it was really awkward and weird. I'm like yelling in my apartment because you know me, I'm a yeller. I showered for it. I was really proud of myself. I put on like a real outfit. I was kind of really honest with them. It was actually a lot of women, so I felt like I could be super honest. And I told them my quarantine goals. That's like how I started out the set. I was like, my goals for this quarantine is to put no heat on my hair. Another goal is no zippers, because all I'm wearing is like sweatpants and leggings, because there's no reason to shimmy into anything during quarantine. Another thing is no makeup. Are you wearing makeup?
No.
Yeah,
I stopped wearing makeup before the quarantine, though. Like, I got really lazy about makeup.
This is my thing about makeup. I actually like it. I like learning about it. I like playing around with it. I don't even mind putting it on. I hate taking it off.
I do too, yeah.
I hate it. It is the worst part of my day. And like, I have to like, I swear to God, I should just have like a cup of M&Ms next to like the makeup pads, because I need almost like a dog to be convinced to take off my makeup. So it's like when I put on my makeup, I get so angry because all I can think is in like 4 hours, I'm going to have to take this off, and I hate it. And then I never clearly do a good job. So the next day I wake up like truly like somebody punched me in the face with like mascara on the side of my cheek and like just a full mess. So my thing is like, maybe my skin will heal, and there I can go to bed. Like now to go to bed, all I have to do is brush my teeth and take out my contacts. So it's like on a Tuesday, I was like, nobody's going to discover me on a Tuesday. I'm going to be wearing sweatpants and I'm going to tell my jokes to people. And I'm sorry I didn't shower. But then like on the weekend, I'm like, we're going to dress nice. We're going to wear makeup. We could be discovered. And none of this stuff happens anymore. I hope people understand that nobody's discovering anybody at any time.
That's why we have podcasts. Because we're not being discovered.
There's no discovery happening. But I still am able to have that fantasy that on the weekends when it's packed crowds, or there used to be packed crowds, and you know we're all giving our all, that I should probably look more professional. But like a Tuesday, I feel bad for anybody that sees me on a Tuesday. I roll out of bed, hair in a bun, wearing a sweatshirt, and I perform. I'm not like not giving my all, but I do look a mess.
I'm excited to hear about what you Googled.
Oh yeah. So this was like very important to me because I've been feeling this way for a couple of days. I Googled if I'm sleeping more, why am I more tired? And this is the thing is like, I don't know about you. I'm always kind of sleep deprived. I'll have moments where I'll kind of catch up on sleep. And by moments, I mean like 3 days. But because I'm traveling every couple of days, another habit of mine is that early flights, there's two things to know. Early flights are the cheapest, and early flights, especially in bad weather, always take off. So especially in the winter, I always do like 5:30, 6 a.m. flights, because if I'm going to Chicago, I want to make sure I get there and my flight isn't delayed or canceled. So I almost always book really early flights when I'm traveling. And then my logic is I'll get to the hotel and I'll just sleep the rest of the day. But, you know, I can't change the fact that I'm going to bed most days, you know, pre all of this at 2 a.m. So I go to bed at 2, I'm waking up at 4, I'm at an airport for a couple of hours, I sleep for a couple of hours during the day, and then, you know, rinse and repeat. I do this for weeks at a time. So I'm always kind of sleep deprived. And this is the longest I've ever been home and ever slept. And I'm sleeping, I have a Fitbit. I'm looking at my Fitbit, and every night I'm sleeping 9 hours, 10 hours. It's like crazy. And I'm so I even told you the other day when we were going to podcast, I was like, hey, I need a minute. I'm so like, I feel like I was like punched in the face and I couldn't wake up. And so I Googled that, and it basically was like, okay, the average person needs 7.5 hours of sleep, and you go through about 5 REM cycles. But when you sleep more than the 7.5 hours, you go into another, or not REM cycles, but just sleep cycles. You go into another sleep cycle, and then you wake up in the middle of that sleep cycle. And that's why you wake up like groggy and extra tired. So really, getting too much sleep can make you more tired and groggy. And I was like, well, that shouldn't be how it works. Like,
Yeah, but you're being woken up, or you're waking up naturally.
yeah, no, there's no alarms. I have
So
a
you're
little.
waking up naturally, so you're not in the middle of your REM sleep cycle if you're waking up naturally. That means you've completed a sleep cycle.
I don't know. I don't think waking up so you have to understand also about my body. I'm like an old man. I get up anywhere from 1 to 3 times in the middle of the night to pee. So I've always worried about my health in some sense, and about my ability to get real sleep, because I don't sleep through the night like most people. But I don't know if I actually hit all my cycles because I have to get up a couple times in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. My dad has always had trouble with sleep, and has gone to like some sleep doctors. And my dad was a psychopath. My dad would I would go over for like a sleepover. I'd be like 14, 15 years old. I'd sleep over at my friend Amanda's, and my dad would pick me up at 6 a.m. on a Sunday to start my day.
To do what?
I know. It's clean, babysit, just be helpful to my mom. Sometimes if I was a real mess, because I was like drinking and doing drugs at the time, he'd be like, you seem tired, go take a nap, but then I want you to be helpful. So my dad was like psychopath, and it wasn't until I think I was like maybe a senior. I think I was a senior. My dad read a book about sleep, and it was like, teenagers need more sleep. You like literally their bodies are growing. Teenagers need more sleep. So my younger siblings, my little sister, my 2 younger brothers actually got to sleep more. And then when I was a senior, my dad started picking me up from sleepovers at 7:30. So things really changed.
Well, that's really nice of him. And meanwhile, your older sister, is shorter than the rest of you and has the shortest.
Yeah. Neither of us hit our predicted height.
Your dad's like ripping you out of your soil.
Yeah. Thank you for giving a real image to the pain that I went through. But
yeah.
So
I always wondered that about school. It's like we have to get up and go to school. It's like, this can't be natural. Like, this cannot be good for you.
Oh yeah, sitting stationary all day is the worst thing you can do in general. I know it's preparing you for fucking the workforce, but I think making you get up early just to sit is like the meanest thing you can do for somebody's physical, emotional growth whatsoever. And people are like, no, we're making great healthy kids, and everybody's like, I'm eating Pop-Tarts and crying, and I don't know why.
I don't know how any of us survived the 80s and 90s with all the information they didn't have about, like, so it's like we're all being fed like fast food, like TV dinners, cereal, sugary cereals. Like we made it. Just knowing how much more we are aware of food now.
Oh
it's
yeah.
Like, how did we get to this point? Which actually kind of brings me into my point.
Yeah, what's your Google?
Because I Googled, can you live off cereal?
I like how you have all this knowledge and you're like, but can we? Is it okay? Can we?
Well, I mean, like, produce, it feels like a bad idea to get like fresh fruits and vegetables. I just feel like I wanted to stock up on canned goods and stuff, and cereals and things that like can last a bit longer. And I don't have the room in the fridge because I'm staying at Gianni's, and there's 4 people living here besides me, so it's like I can't just shove a bunch of like fruit and vegetables in the fridge, which I have done. I've taken up a lot of room. Anyway, I wanted to just live on cereal, and I was like, can you do that? And like, you can. You can absolutely survive, especially if you're using cow's milk, because of those 2 things combined. You'll get everything you need, but you will not be optimal. And like, if you get sick, you're going to have a harder time.
So cow's milk, we're saying, has like protein and different like vitamins and stuff that might be helpful. But are they admitting that, like, does it have to be a certain type of cereal? Because I know the cereal you're eating some kind of like Cinnamon Toast Crunch London knockoff right? I know you.
Yeah, it's not as good. It's not as good.
Yeah.
It's crunchier.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
it's not as good of the American brand because we put some really good chemicals that make it a fun cinnamon
we do a good
experience.
job. Like, honestly, it's like you wouldn't think a crunchy or cinnamon toast crunch would be a bad thing, but it's kind of like bread that like is too toasted and now it's just like a crouton.
So
Like you
you're
need,
eating cinnamon croutons.
yeah.
We're gonna have to
So
write a
our
letter.
cinnamon toast crunch is better. Don't at me.
You have a bunch of angry stay-at-home UK people being like, "Don't you fucking criticize our cinnamon life." Um, yeah, I also wonder if you're having a better type of cereal. Like I don't know if kashi, like if you put kashi in milk.
Well,
Um,
but that's not why I was asking. I wanted to know if you eat like a vitamin fortified sugary ass stupid cereal, if you could survive on that. Because I mean, I grew up on it.
yeah, you've grown into a 4'11" woman off
Yeah,
that stuff.
I
You have
didn't get
two
all
of
the
like
sleep I needed either.
yeah, dude. We're the two tiniest. We both look like middle school students going around telling people what they should do to be a healthy human. Neither of us
Angrily.
angrily. I don't know. I think with cereal, like this is how I feel about all the all American diet. You will survive. You are putting some kind of sustenance in you and you will grow. You're not starving, but you're not getting the nutrients. And like you said, like down the road, it's going to kick you in the butt. So you'll be fine for like 10 years, but I don't think you're not making, I don't know, antibodies.
Like you it's like you have a bunch of like soldiers that are weak and pathetic.
Good luck to you surviving the pandemic with cereal milk. I'm pretty proud of you for just figuring out a way to continue to eat the way you want to while surviving. I think you're doing a great job. Have you done laser hair removal? And if so, are you willing to say where?
I have done it. I do. I'm a Middle Eastern woman.
It's
I've
like
done my
mandatory
armpit
at this point. Don't they gift it like the same way? Like,
as soon as you
that,
come out of the womb.
yeah, yeah. It's like the equivalent of a quinceanera. They're like, here's 4 packages of laser hair removal, please.
And a nose job, and that's optional. But I have had it done on my armpits, which no change. I didn't do it enough, but like
How many sessions did you do?
I can't remember. I think armpits was just a couple.
So I've done armpits and I would say it was like 70% effective. Like now I get like 4 hairs that come in. So like I can kind of go a little longer without shaving, but if I like try to pretend like it really worked, I'll look at my armpits.
You get weird body hair. You get like one long thick
I
hair.
do. I do. It's so insane because I'm Italian. I mean, I literally I was joking. We were joking with our friend Nigel Ning, who's clearly from his name Asian, and he was saying like, yeah, I'm gonna grow out my beard, and we're just like, oh, sweetheart, us combined can grow faster, thicker facial hair than you can. So for me, I'm not crazy hairy, but I'm a pretty hairy Italian, and so I went armpits. I did bikini line. Bikini line was the best. Bikini line was like, we got you. It's almost completely perfect. I did 6 sessions for bikini. I did 6 sessions for my armpits. And like I said, like 70% done. I would love to like have the money and finish it. I did my legs. I did my full legs. There was like
How did that go?
you know what? I mean, it's awkward and I didn't enjoy it. As somebody, as we've recalled, does not like being touched. This very attractive Russian woman was all up in my legs and it was not helpful. Like every time I was just like, she is all up in there and it's really making me uncomfortable and feeling like the beginning of a sterile porn. But it's very painful. Like your thighs it's not painful because there's like meat on your thighs, but like my shin and the top of my foot, it was like, it truly felt like somebody was like holding a curling iron to my foot and my shin.
I like the way it feels.
No, this is like, it almost feels like it's burning off my skin. What's weird, I think I did 6 sessions. It grows in lighter and it grows in slower. And there are parts that it doesn't grow, but it still grows. Like it's still there. Like I see a change in the sense that like I was touring and I wasn't shaving my legs and it's like, why waste the time? And it comes in a lot slower and a lot lighter, but it's still coming in. So it's not like, I think it just makes it a little bit easier to manage, but it's not like magic. And then I did my mustache I'm not exaggerating, probably 20 times. So 20 different sessions. The first time is a little bit my fault because you're supposed to shave, and there's something about shaving that's supposed to like help it. I don't know.
Well, because the root still stays intact. So they're able to get to that bottom part and like and zap the like root part of it. But if you wax, you pull the hair out completely from the root. So there's
Nothing for it to zap.
Yeah.
Yeah, but nobody told me I even had to shave. And of course, I've never shaved my face before. So the first couple of sessions, I didn't shave. And I guess that's an important process of it. But even so, I probably did 15 sessions where I would shave my upper lip, and it did nothing. It did absolutely nothing. There's sometime in my early 30s, I started to grow a mustache. I still grow a mustache. And now I have one of those little weird, it looks almost like a pen. You buy it at like a pharmacy, like a CVS or whatever.
Yeah. They kind of zap like zzz.
It doesn't zap. It's just almost like a petite razor,
You got off birth control in your early 30s too, didn't you? So do you think that was the change?
Oh, that's 100% the culprit. 100%, because they say whether you get pregnant or you're on birth control, it's messing with your hormones. And when you mess with your hormones, it messes with your hair growth and all this other stuff. So I was on birth control for 12 years. I went off it and I started to become a man. Like, I just don't understand why going off birth control made me start growing massive amounts of hair. But I didn't have a mustache. I went off birth control. Now I have a mustache.
I think it has to do with the female hormones that you were being injected with. And then when that stopped happening, your testosterone, your very Italian testosterone finally got to shine.
Yeah. My Stallone comes out and it was like, can I help you, ladies? Ladies, can I help you? I'm like, I also, as somebody that has always liked working out, has always enjoyed having muscles, has always had like, kind of had pride in the fact that I'm a fit person. I swear to God, my body was just like, you know what? Just lean into it. You're Italian. You're muscular. Let's be this. Just be this person.
Just be the dude we want you to be.
I just don't want it. I don't want to have it. I have to say the little wand does a decent enough job, but I have to like keep up on it. But I feel so angry for how much money I spent trying to zap it off with laser hair removal, and it did absolutely nothing.
You ever look over and you see someone who hasn't taken the time to get rid of their mustache, and you're like, that's a choice, like you said.
Yeah. Well, what I don't understand is, so we both have trans friends that, have made a point to get rid of their mustache, and they look phenomenal. I want to be like, what's your secret? Why is laser hair removal working for you? Like, did they have to do more sessions? Is it because they spent more of their time shaving? Because, I only shaved.
Stop yelling for 1 second. They're also on female hormones.
But I'm on female hormones. No,
you're not. You were being pumped with those hormones, and now your very natural male testosterone Italianness is coming through.
I look at trans women, and I'm so jealous. Like, this is going to sound ridiculous, but like they got to decide exactly how they're going to look, and I just have to deal with the fact that this is what I have. Like, I'm just growing so much hair. I only have a limited budget. I don't have a big budget to change it. I hope this isn't offensive. I hope everybody.
I don't think it's offensive. I just think that, like, if you really wanted to change your look, like you just want to not have a mustache.
That's all I want. That's all I want.
If you really wanted to change your look, you just put a little money in it.
I did.
Like, if you put as much money in to changing your look as they put money into theirs, did you do this? Did you use a Groupon and go to a different
I did. Because that's the other thing, is that it actually is really expensive. So
that's what happened, was that every time you go to a new place, they start you at like level 1, which is basically nothing.
Yeah. Some of them have actually asked and been like, have you done it before? And then they'll start in the middle. Because I did talk to one woman that was like absolutely phenomenal and just like a wonderful person. And she's like, I got you. And she like started from like the middle or whatever. But no, that is a valid point.
Yeah, because they don't want to get like sued and like because they've burned your lip off. So they're obviously going to start lower. I'm just saying, if you actually put real money into this, you could have like.
But I don't have real money. My goal, I have to say, when I did do my legs, because even with the Groupon, it was kind of expensive. I was like, I can't wait to have like laser my whole body money. Like, and that's never going to happen now that we're not making any money. But I think we're two people.
Patreon.
Yeah, Patreon. Can you imagine we have a tier that's just like help Liz and Maria laser their whole body? Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I think some people would help that.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, like, first it's rent, then it's food, and then it's laser. Like,
that's the difference between Patreon and seeking arrangement, by the way.
They're honest. I don't feel great about being in a position like I have so much pride in making my own money and working hard and even being on a budget. Like, I spent most of my career up until maybe about 3 years ago when I started working a lot more and having more of a fan base. But I do feel like I got a kick in the teeth of my pride for the fact that I'm in a place where I'm like, oh, I don't know how to make money. And I feel less of a strong, independent woman being not having to do this because this is really fun and it's not weird that people have Patreons to help support their creative stuff. But this completely came out of a place of fear, or at least for me, of, oh crap, I don't know when I'll be able to perform next. And I don't know when I'm going to have gigs again.
Well, you had one yesterday.
I did have one yesterday and I was very grateful and they were lovely. Although I never actually even finished that story, which is the way it works on Zoom is while there were several people watching, you would just have a huge screen of one person. So you're just now making eye contact with one person and telling them the joke. And then after a couple of seconds, you'll see another person and you're making eye contact and you're telling them the joke.
Yeah, but that's because you kept it on that setting. You can change it to a grid so that everybody's faces.
I don't know, dude. I had to have a tutorial with the guy that hired me, and he was like, "Hey, you can change the bathroom. You can change the background." So I made the background at first. It was just a picture of my cat, and then I actually used the background of my special, and it said Liz and writing behind it. And I was very proud of myself. Thank you. But what I ended up doing, the same way when you're performing and instead of looking at the audience, you'll look at like the back row or you'll look at the back of the room and you're kind of like looking over people. And that's a way to not make eye contact because the first 2 rows are illuminated. I did that. They were kind of all in a row at the top and they were like little boxes. And I just looked at all the little boxes as a way of looking at the back of the room. And I was like,
oh my God, I'm so terrified. Like, I was just emailing with someone who has these corporate gigs as well. And basically, like, because corporations have all this like petty cash money that's not being spent, they're bored. And we're
bored.
Comedians we need money. So he set up this thing and the hashtag, it's called like stand up to Corona. You do like 3 to 5 minutes. How long did you do?
I did 20.
Damn, that would have been, I'm afraid to just do 3 to 5, like 20. I got to build up to that. Like, I don't know. It feels like I'm an open micer all over again. I'm like, hey guys, like I just did a table read on Zoom and I felt bad saying anything because that means everyone else had to stop saying something. It was very, very hard to get used to.
Yeah. I mean, I don't love it. I'm grateful. I'm very grateful for the gig and the money. It's not fun. You feel crazy. I guess it's a skill. I don't know. I don't know anymore.
I don't know either, but I just hope this isn't, if this is going to be how we live the rest of our lives, I'll do it.
Yeah,
but if I can get by without doing it, I'd like to not do it for that much.
Should we get into our topic? It's near and dear to my heart, but I think this is going to be very much like our misophonia where I talk about it and you talk about how it's affected you. But our topic today is dyslexia, which I'm dyslexic. I've been open about it. I have a talk online. I did a conference for the Dyslexic Advantage, I think like 4 or 5 years ago, and that I get a lot of fans that write to me when they stumble upon it and are like, "Oh, thank you so much for trying to be funny, but mostly making me cry about your dyslexia." Dyslexia, it's a learning disability. It makes it more difficult to read, write, spell, memory, math. It just makes typical learning really difficult and really hard. And the best way that I know how to describe it is that you have a part of your brain that specifically helps you read, write, spell, math. Like that's what this part of your brain is supposed to be used for. And dyslexic people use this other part of their brain to do that. And it doesn't have the same equipment. So when we try to read using this other part of our brain, we can do it, but it's slower, it's ineffective, things get jumbled, we get really tired because we're using almost like the wrong apparatus to be doing it, so it causes us, to be more exhausted. In general, I just tell people my brain is slower. I'm not saying I won't get to where you're going, but it takes me longer, and by the time I get there, I'm tired. Even in college, I was supposed to be reading like 200 to 400 pages a night, and I'm like, a night? If I get through 7, I'm proud of myself. Like, it was so overwhelming. And
at this time, did you know that it was dyslexia, or were you just not sure? Did you just think you were behind everybody else in class?
For the longest I can remember, I've always known I had dyslexia. They found out in the 3rd grade I was dyslexic, pretty much because we would have independent reading time, and I didn't know what everybody was doing. So I would pick the same book. It was this chapter book that had a cat on it. Yep. That's who I am. It was a chapter book that had a cat on it. And it had a couple of pictures. We're talking about like 7 pictures in the whole book. So I would look at the pictures and I would count the words because I didn't know what people were doing. And then somebody discovered that I didn't know how to read. I've always been a great con artist. I've always known how to look busy while doing nothing. My dad tells me I've always been great at it. And then they put me in special classes. And then my parents put me in New Jersey. There's a Rider College. There was like a special program. And so after school, I think like twice a week, maybe 3 times a week, they would drop me off with a student that would like help me with my homework. We would read together. And that's when I actually started writing and creating. I actually think it was probably the best thing to ever happen to me because I started writing these books. It was called Spiffy the Spider because I didn't know how to draw. And the only thing I knew how to draw was a spider. Mm-hmm. And I started creating these little adventures for the spider. And my proudest moment is that Spiffy had hundreds of brothers and sisters because spiders have lots of siblings, but also I'm one of 5. And I was just like, that's how it feels. I have 4 other siblings and it's too much and nobody's paying attention to me. But
yeah. You have middle child syndrome or something.
Yeah, middle child syndrome is you have one on each side. Mine was like, I have my parents kept going syndrome. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why do you need all these kids? Are you just counting the odds? Like one of us is going to be successful. I'll show you. But yeah, I had somebody help me with my homework up until about middle school. And I actually worked really hard to like not be in special classes. They always made me feel bad about myself. And the weird thing about special classes, or at least in public school, is it wasn't like everybody else was dyslexic and we were all on the same disability page. It would be somebody had autism, somebody was blind. So you had 1 or 2 teachers trying to tame all these people with all these different issues. And sometimes they would teach you like you were a moron. And it's like, I'm not a moron. I need some extra time, or I need you to explain it 2 times instead of once. And like, I'm not the smartest person, but I'm not an idiot. Like I can do deductive reasoning. I am extremely creative. I'm able to, once I do learn a skill, I'm able to not only master the skill, but then make it better and get, and then find new and different ways to utilize it. Like, I don't know if you remember this. We were staying at that Airbnb where we became friends with Melanie. And it was in such a weird place that you would get off the tube and you would have to maybe walk 5 minutes. And then there was this like weird pathway where you had to like kind of, you were like crossing a highway and going under a bridge. It was kind of complicated. And every time we would have to sit and wait at this light for like 10 minutes, it felt like. And so every day that I came home, I was trying to find a new and better way and faster way for us to get back to our Airbnb, to the point where after about, I think 4 days, I was like, Maria, I found a faster way. And that's kind of how my brain works, which is like, in the beginning, I'm just like, I don't understand. And why is this taking so long? And what do you mean by this? And by the time I do learn how to get there, I'm like, I bet you we could do this better and faster. That's actually why the statistic is about 65 to 70% of dyslexic people are entrepreneurs. That's like a real fact.
But the thing is about that way of thinking is like, it takes everyone longer when something's new to them, and then they always find a bit better, faster way of doing it as they go along. So I don't know if that's particular to dyslexia,
I
But
don't know if that's
I
true
know
though.
personally I have a hard time when I mean, I had just as much of a hard time trying to figure out our way from like in Limehouse as you did. And
Oh, of course. No, I'm not saying it's. Yeah, of course, everything new to everybody. There's some people that just pick up on stuff immediately. Like that's those types of intelligence I'm in awe of, and I don't have that. I get
I
that
mean, but
everybody's
like
on the
somebody's not going
same.
to pick up Photoshop and just know it immediately. It's like
Oh,
it's
of
going to be really
course.
slow, and then after a while of using it, you'll be starting to use the shortcuts and stuff. I don't know. Like it's
No,
just as far as like
but that's where, and maybe I'm not giving the best example, but that's also you start to use the shortcuts, but then what I was saying is the thing that kind of takes us to the next level is we start to invent shortcuts. Everybody starts on page one. There's some people that just can pick stuff up quicker, and that's just an anomaly, and that's, you know, I don't know if that's classified as genius or somebody that's just highly intelligent. Then there's everybody else who anything that is new is we're learning at the same pace. I would say you're learning at a regular pace of something new. I tend to be a little bit behind that. And even if you're learning Photoshop and it takes you a week to get down the basics, it might take me 2 weeks to get down the basics. Then you start using shortcuts, you start getting into it, you start to be comfortable. But in that, where we're both comfortable, I start to go, okay, what if I did this, this, and this? Even though they're saying you should just do this, what if, and I start to make unique combinations? I mean, I'm sure I'm doing a crappy job of explaining it, but that's where, and I think I said the dyslexic thing wrong. They're actually saying 70% of entrepreneurs are dyslexic. I think I said that thing wrong.
so. Why do you think that is? Is it because like when you have dyslexia, you sort of I don't know if this is a trait of it, but like you tend to think differently than everyone else. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think one factor of it is things are harder, and because they're harder, you're trying to find a way to make it easier for yourself. So I think it's just that uncomfortableness that forces you into being inventive. And then I also think we're because our brain functions differently, we see things differently. I physically see things differently. I always joke with you and my boyfriend, but one of my favorite parts of being dyslexic is I'll read something wrong and I'll make myself laugh. Like I was on a run somewhere in Florida. I was like doing gigs. I was going for a run in this kind of like neighborhood not too far from my hotel. And what did it say? It said like, I think it said like contemporary center, but I read it as containment center. And I went
yeah,
on this whole fantasy of it being like a zombie neighborhood, and this is where they keep the zombies. And I was just laughing, and I went to go take a picture of it because I was like, why is this called the containment center? And then when I looked at the picture, I was like, oh, it says contemporary center. But like, I can't tell you how many times I misread stuff. It makes me laugh because I'm like, that's stupid. And then I read it back and I go, oh, that's not what it says at all.
yeah.
So in some ways, because my brain works differently, I see things differently, I process things differently. I've always felt now, not always, I'll take that back. Since I've started to learn more about the positivities of dyslexia, I feel very grateful that I'm in a field where thinking differently sets me apart and makes me a better joke writer. So I do find it difficult sometimes to talk to young comics, and they're just like, well, how do I create a unique perspective that makes me stand out? And I'm like, I don't know, be unique. Go be unique, Brian. Like,
Just be yourself.
yeah,
Like
like there's a part of me that's like, I do feel like I have a little bit of an upper hand creatively because my brain just works differently. I see things differently. I'm sure the muscle has gotten stronger because I've been doing this half my life, but in some ways, people can see the world differently because they have different experiences. They grew up in a different culture, they grew up in a different environment, they had a different set of rules, what have you. But my brain literally is almost like, think of it almost like growing up in a different culture. My brain has already set me apart.
is it letters that you see backwards or is it words? Or like I don't know how you read. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think I have such severe dyslexia that, and I think it's actually dysgraphia is when words and letters start to look jumbled. When I go to write, I often do that very stereotypical thing where I go to write dog and I've written bog. I mix up my letters like in the processing from me going, I want to write the word dog and me starting to write it. I'll write the letters wrong. Often I confuse words that aren't even similar. Like I have a really weird habit of confusing that and like sometimes you'll read a sentence in an email that I've written or like maybe in my notebook, and a word that completely doesn't belong in that sentence will be there because my brain is confused it. I don't really understand that. I don't know why I do that. The best thing that I've heard for all dyslexics, and I still have to be better about it, if you read stuff out loud, you catch more mistakes. But I now in my newsletter, because I write my own newsletter for my fans, I have a little thing that says, hey, I'm dyslexic. I'm going to make a lot of mistakes. If you can read it, it's good enough. But I posted.
That's perfect.
Yeah. Because that's my thing. It's like, this is not a book. This isn't a dissertation. This isn't anything.
I used to give you a lot of shit. Like I'm sort of a grammar police type of person. So until you were like, hey, bitch, if you could just ease up a little bit. Because I'm sensitive to that. Because like you are a bit sensitive to people like correcting you about all that, and like I didn't realize. So I'd be like, oh, "It's there, THEIR, you dumbass," and you're like, "Okay, let's talk."
Yeah. And my thing is this, and we all have sensitivities, and I try to be open to everybody's sensitivity and try to learn and understand. And I also understand that people might not like they think they're helping, and I have tons of fans that correct my grammar, and I do my best. I mean, I wish the bios on social media were longer because I used to have in my bio, I write things dyslexically. I even just had an issue recently where I put ARE instead of our, OUR, which I know the difference. I absolutely know the difference, but I write my tweets quickly and I don't think anything of it and you can't change them. And so I had probably about 10 fans go, it's our, or I had one fan like make fun of me. And I kind of go, hey, just so you know, I'm dyslexic. I'm doing my best. I'm always going to make mistakes. I don't have a team. There's no team. So if you can read it and you understood what I was saying, it actually doesn't need to be corrected. Now, if you don't understand what I'm saying, like I've had tweets that were so mangled, they don't make sense. And I've deleted them. I was like, this doesn't make sense. I need to start over. But R and our doesn't change how you're interpreting that sentence. Same with there. Yes, I know the difference between the three of them, but you knew what I was saying. So what are you getting from correcting me? What is happening?
I will tell you. I'll tell you why. Please. I am particular about spelling and grammar. Because you lose it, and lose is an interesting word that I just used. You do lose it the more you see. Because I pick things up. I guess I can say I pick things up really quickly, but that means if 90% of the population is on the internet spelling lose, LOOSE, which is loose, and I keep reading that, my brain's going to start thinking that's how you spell it. And so I need to protect how to actually do it. So that's why I stop it in its tracks. Does that make sense?
I guess so. But this is what upsets me is most people aren't doing it like, hey, this affects my ability to continue to grow and maintain this language, in quotations, whether it's your first language or another language. What bothers me is I would say about 70% of the time people use it as a way of deflecting my intelligence and my ability to so like even when they do it to the president, like, do I agree? Do I think he's smart? Blah, blah, blah. No, but to throw his poor grammar in his face as a way of saying that he's dumb, dude, we're all spitting out tweets and all this. Do I think there should be people helping him? And do I think that this is ridiculous that there are no barriers? Absolutely. But
do you think the president is dyslexic?
I don't know if he knows how to read at all. Like,
I don't think he knows how to read.
Yeah, like that is just, I mean, that's a whole nother topic. If he is dyslexic, a part of me is like, that is not the issue. I think where my sensitivity comes from isn't from people trying to help me, because I get it and I know that comes from a good place. It bothers me because people think I don't know the difference when I clearly do. My creativity works faster than my abilities. Even like, I think people have heard it in the podcast. Like, I don't say, like, one of the things that is part of my dyslexia is not being able to say words correctly because I can't even visualize them. Like, I'm a very visual learner. So I think in one episode we said lackadaisical, and I had to go, is that a word? Did I say it right? What does that look like?
It's a crazy word, but yeah.
Yeah. And I do try to expand my vocabulary, but I often feel limited in how I talk and how I write because spelling is so difficult for me, and pronouncing things are difficult for me, and my brain does work slower sometimes. And I actually as a comic, I started out very monotone, and my choice to be monotone was completely because my brain worked slower and because I had difficulty saying certain things. And I trip up a lot more now that I talk. And not only a normal pace, but sometimes an elevated and faster pace. But
I think I'm starting to understand your fear about the podcast then, because you said you were worried about tripping up and screwing up.
Yeah, because I don't, if I make a mistake talking to you, I'm not going to lose you. Especially when you, like my fan base, if they come to see a show, they like what I do. They're almost an extension of a friendship. I've seen what you do. I like you. Are they a maximum friendship? No, you can still lose a fan base. You can still wrong them. You can still make mistakes to the point where they might not come back. But a strong friendship, a friendship like ours, we have so much experience. We have so much love in our hearts. I consider you a sister, that my mistakes with you aren't chipping away at this, our sturdy friendship. And so I feel more confident that I can be the exposed version of myself, where I don't know how to say words. I don't know how to spell stuff. I say things dumb. I make stupid analogies that don't make sense. And I don't feel like I'm going to lose you. But with a fan base, it's not sturdy. And you see it all the time. Like, well, think about the cancel culture has only made that seem even more fragile. So I don't think I'd like to think that we're good people. I'd like to think that we do our best to be open about what we're not strong about. We like to be open about being caring people, but things can get misconstrued. And when you're somebody like me, that it takes a while for me to formulate my ideas, to construct my ideas, and to find the exact right word to support my ideas, it's really scary to do that without the filters that I've had in place for 18 years.
So there's like an email, like a booker who sends out emails, and she uses yellow like background on the text. And I think because she's dyslexic, it helps her. That's what somebody told me.
Yeah.
But how? How does that help?
Yeah, I don't know enough about it. I've heard that there's certain fonts that are actually better for dyslexic people. I've heard that there's certain colors and backgrounds that are supposed to be. I actually haven't done enough research. I tried using, I think Grammarly was the app, because it was supposed to like catch everything as you're writing it. I found it so distracting and not helpful and not as intuitive as it wanted it.
You're like, shut the fuck up, Grammarly.
I did. I put it everywhere. And then within probably 3 days, I was like, this isn't helpful and I don't want to get used to it. What I find crazy, and tell me if you relate to this at all, early autocorrect, I would say like 7 years to 10 years ago, autocorrect on our phones was amazing. Absolutely amazing. I felt like it was intuitive. I felt like it corrected my spelling. Even when I think we talked about on another podcast, I was trying to spell phenomenal, and, I was spelling it the way my brain was like, yeah, it's going to be an F and then an E and a nom, and then my nominal, you know how you spell. And my phone was like, what is wrong with you? It was like, literally, I hate that little bar that says we have no suggestions. I'm like, how do you have no suggestions? You have suggestions. So that's when I get frustrated. And if, you're not around or my boyfriend's not around, I always ask Siri. That's my best bet. And I do that in public all the time, where I'm just like, Siri, how do you spell phenomenal? She goes PH, and I'm like, damn it, I always forget that part. And then I can do it. I'm telling you, if I was going to spell phenomenal that poorly 10 years ago, autocorrect would have been like, dude, it's PH, and it would have fixed it. Now it gives me suggestions where I'll be like, I'll see you tomorrow. And it's like, are you trying to spell dinosaur? And you're like, that's not even close to what I'm trying to spell. And it gives me like weird suggestions of like full people's names. It's like, did you mean to talk about Prince Charles? You're like, what are you talking about? Like, it is so bad now. And it makes me so angry that I have to use dictionary.com. And I've told my parents, I don't want to use dictionary.com. I don't like dictionaries. It takes too much work.
I do find that it is worse, and sometimes it just changes, doesn't even ask.
Yeah,
it just changes into something you're like, I had it right in the first place.
Yeah.
Why did you do that?
Yeah.
I knew exactly what I was doing, you fucker, and then I have to go back.
We're out here bringing up old wounds to let people know they haven't changed. Even now, I still have an insecurity. Like, I was with you for 2 weeks when I was in London, and like the amount of times I've interrupted you to be like, Maria, how do you spell? I think what's really been our bond is that you've never yelled at me.
We make a good team because I know how to spell everything.
I love it.
So EVER. I'm sorry, but yeah, but yeah, so it's just like if you ask me how to spell something, I'm like, bam, what, got it, And so I already said, it makes me feel like I'm like queen of the world.
Yeah. But I will say it's. I try not to come from a defensive place when I tell people like, hey, I'd actually appreciate if you didn't correct my spelling, because I do know it is what it is and there's no way to fix it. It is, you know what I mean? There's a part of me that is like, it is what it is. If it's not in a book, I just don't feel like it's that big of a deal on social media. I do see your perspective, but I do make a point to try to kind of educate people, which is, if you understood what I was saying and that's the whole point of communication, why do you feel you need to say this? And I try to do it nicely. It actually kind of exploded on one post the other day to the point where like a fan started harassing them.
What were their reasons for wanting to correct you? What were the reasons?
I don't think I asked. I think it just it kind of escalated. So for me with social media, I do maybe 1 to 2 back and forths. It's too many people, it's too much work, and I don't enjoy it. I try to show support and let people know that I do appreciate that they're commenting, and I appreciate their support, and I appreciate what they're saying, even if they are upset. When it's a hate comment or it feels like there's no way that I can really have a discourse with somebody, I just blatantly ignore it. There's nothing. But when somebody goes, it's our, not our, I'll go, hey, I see that there's no way for me to correct it. Just so you know, I'm dyslexic. I'm constantly going to make mistakes. If this is going to bother you, I suggest you don't follow me. Like I suggest that.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know what I mean? If you're such a grammar Nazi that it's like, I'm sorry, this is who I am, please do not read what I write. It's always going to have mistakes.
Let's ask our listeners if they are grammar Nazis, like why they feel it's their duty to say something.
I do feel like I've had a couple of private messages where people go, oh, I never thought of it that way. And I have, as somebody that this is like my crusade and my sensitivity, it's made me more open when I say something wrong and somebody goes, hey, you said this and this is why it's upsetting. And I get that you might not understand it, but I just wanted to let you know. And I go, oh, good. All right, now I can be more open and understanding to it. So this being my sensitivity and this being the thing that can really rile me up, as you have all seen, has made me be more understanding of other people's issues that, again, even after they explain it to me, I still might not understand, but I can understand how it's sensitive to them. I don't think you need to understand to know this might not be the time and the place to say something. Yeah, I would love to just know what possesses them to correct people. Like, do they get a high off it? Like, does it make them feel better or smarter?
Like I said, like I'm a grammar Nazi. I don't say anything anymore because they're so like it's just. I mean, like I haven't yelled at you in years because it's ridiculous. Not to you, but I'm just saying to anyone. It's like don't bother. But I'm telling you, the why I flag that stuff is because I need to remember that that's not the way it's said. It's like they say goat's cheese here instead of goat cheese, and so every time somebody says goat's cheese, I say in my head goat cheese. So that I need to remember that it's goat cheese to me and to all of beautiful America. But
yeah,
if I don't do that and I start saying goat's cheese, like I keep saying like they cue, like, the cue for instead of the line. And I'm like, that's just not me. It's not who I am. But it's just a protection of how I know things are meant to be. So.
Okay. All right. Well, you can email us at 2nondoctors@gmail.com. How is that written out, Maria?
The number 2, non-doctors, all the way spelled out, @gmail.com. We should just get all of those email addresses, like all the different versions, and just so
they all go to us. And then
also we have a Patreon.
We do. It's up. It's running. There's so many fun benefits. You can get early episodes before we release them. You can get bonus episodes. We're open to hearing your Googles and going off some of your suggestions about things we should Google. It's all up on our Patreon. We'll have all this stuff in the description, but I'm pretty sure it's like Patreon /2nondoctors. We're on Instagram @2nondoctors, but that's 2non-DRS. And we'll be back. And we appreciate you. And sorry I was so ranty.
No, that was great. Bye.
Bye.
Johnny.